Live from Tokyo, Japan, for what will probably be the second last time for these Corona lives that I've been doing daily since the situation came up here in Japan. And things got a little bit hairy, as they say. So let me just keep myself hydrated. But I've shot video here before, and it's hard for me to get the right light. So let me see if moving this down here will give me a bit better light, which it did. Which means you guys have to look at me a bit more close up. Sorry, but you want a shot of outside as well. But then that makes it dark. So let's sit with it about there. And so yeah, these lives I've been doing every day for the last 21 days. This is the 21st day in a row from Japan about these coronavirus lives, what's going on with the coronavirus here. First, when it started, like, Japan was the place to sort of look at, and lots of people in the outside world were asking me questions about what it's like there, and what's it going to be like when it comes to our part of the world. But now things have calmed down here in Japan a lot, and it is other people's parts of the world where there's a situation kicking off a lot more, and especially in Europe and North America. Whereas things here are very calm and very stable at the moment. They warn against that changing on a dime, as they say, and the potential for this to go back to a severe situation in Japan. But right now it is not a severe situation in Japan. There are still some, what shall we call them, social curbs perhaps. So some things that are in place to make sure that society sort of runs and keeps going, and that we're not, sorry, I'm just adjusting the camera a little bit more. So the society keeps on trucking on, and like there's small elements of that, but there's still like government advice level. They're not at that kind of level of people being ordered to shut down things. So it's still like advice or suggestions from the government about how to deal with this. So as far as that's concerned, it's kind of calm here in Japan. The numbers are sort of stabilized around about 40 per day would be how I would kind of characterize the numbers. 40 new cases a day. I'm still trying to adjust the light to get it right. 40 new cases a day, and then the number of like fatalities and things like that sort of sits at I think it's about 40 in total, but you have to remember here that they've tested much fewer people than in other parts of the world. So it's a big difference between how Japan has dealt with it and how many other parts of the world have dealt with it. So but yeah, that's the situation with us here right now. So because of that, I've been thinking about sort of dropping the lives and not going live. So on this daily sort of thing. So tomorrow will probably be the last live that we do. I'm hoping that I get the data back on my phone, because I used to shoot from a park, but that drained the data on my packet, and that comes back into effect on the 21st, which is tomorrow. So hopefully I'll get that data. So good morning, Brian. You are here first, and I appreciate it, man. So how are things in Alabama? Are you guys calming down a bit, or is it still ramping up? Is it an upward trajectory, or things flattening off? I know the stock markets were a bit more stable yesterday, so I wonder if that brought stability to people's lives and the reality of this thing for people out there. But how are things in Alabama, Brannon? Is it calm, or is it a bit wild? It's still pretty bad. So what kind of bad though are we talking about? Are we talking about like people buying out the shops and empty shelves, or are we talking people stressed? Are we talking like a high number of cases? What kind of things are going on there in Alabama? Here things are, like I said, aren't so bad. It's kind of calm. There was a big announcement from the health ministry yesterday that pretty much said as is, stay the way you are. So yeah, panic buying mostly, says Brannon. So yeah, the panic buying was a big deal, and something that I don't morally agree with, but practically speaking, if everybody's panic buying and you're not, you're going to end up with nothing. So you kind of have to sort of do it just so that you can maintain some kind of life. If you don't do it, you'll be left with nothing. So people are being driven by fear, exactly. And a lot of it is sort of stoked by the media, and the media highlighting just the negative cases rather than giving a sort of broad picture of the situation. And I'm not entirely sure what governments are scared of. They seem to be scared of this thing kind of getting out of control, but I don't know what out of control means Does that mean, like the real spike in fatalities, or does that just mean a lot of people being sick and the healthcare not being able to take care of it? So, it's but it's different country for country. I saw that President Trump described himself as a war president, and I'm not sure if that's helpful to this current situation or if it's just a ploy to, get more votes in an election year. So, but in terms of America, I think that it's still an upward trajectory, and you haven't quite reached the top yet. You haven't peaked out yet. Whereas here in Japan, it's peaked out, but they're worried about, we're on this sort of the other side of this thing here, and the potential for it to kind of go into massive epidemic proportions are low here, but they're worried about that kind of spiking again, and the kind of like almost like waves going around the world, like it was in Asia, now it's in Europe, going to North America, and then will it come back around to Asia again? So while they're kind of cautiously optimistic about the current situation, they are still concerned about what that could lead to in the future. Brandon, can you do me a favor and tell me what the quality of the video is like? Because what I'm looking at, I don't know, it seems to be like there's is it a flicker? It seems to be like a flicker. So it doesn't look like it's quite the quality that I would hope for, but I don't know if that's what it looks like to the viewer or if that's just what it looks like to me when I'm looking at my video. So, but yeah, so these daily lives I've been doing for like the last, I don't know how long, so it's pretty good. Thanks, Brandon. That I've been doing for the last 21 days. I think I'm going to shut them down tomorrow, and tomorrow will be the last one, because pretty much every day for Japan, it's just been a sort of constant, steady message. I have appreciated the people checking in from around the world and hearing what it's like in Trinidad and Tobago and in the mainland US and Hawaii, in Guatemala. I think I had somebody from there, Sweden, Morocco, of course, Europe, UK, where I'm from, Spain, where my mum is. So hearing that, global picture, Australia as well, has been great, and I've enjoyed doing it. But I think realistically speaking, this, from Tokyo element of it is kind of slowing right down. And of course, like a presidential candidate, I will postpone the lives as of tomorrow. And that's what the presidential candidates do when they quit the race. They postpone their race. They don't actually quit it, because they're like, just in case the candidates who are left befall some terrible disaster, and then they can reenact their campaign. And just like that, I will postpone the lives tomorrow, and tomorrow will be the last day. So I do know it's flicking now, and I think it's from the light. I think so too. But if I don't know, maybe if I turn it this way and get the natural light, that's a lot better, but then the background is awful. It's like, oh, look at that background. But then again, maybe you guys are interested in the background. Let me turn let's see how far I can go until the flicker is gone. It comes back. That doesn't look like there's a flicker. How about there? Let's try for there. Okay, so somebody else joined us in the chat, and thanks for the 2 thumbs up, everybody. But there was a bit of a flicker with the outside light, and then the fake light, the interior lighting. So, but yeah, what was I saying? I was talking about the lives, yeah, and how I've really enjoyed getting that perspective from around the world of what's going on out there, and it's been personally kind of great. But I don't know if the viewer finds as much value in these lives anymore, because it's just not so interesting here in Japan right now. So like I said, like a presidential candidate, I reserve the right to come back into this thing if I need to, and I'll postpone these lives as of tomorrow. I'll do my last one tomorrow. Unless things dramatically change here, or even dramatically change around the world, I'm unlikely to keep doing these daily lives. But I might pop in from time to time, maybe once a week, and just sort of gather the news from around the world and see what people are saying, and find out the perspective. I really appreciate. There's a guy from Utah that dropped by. I think Raw Heights is the tag he goes by on YouTube, and he was telling me what it's like there, and the situation on the ground. So. But in Europe, things look a bit worrying. Anyone from the UK, I hear that things might not be going so well there, and they're talking about an Italy-style lockdown. So Italy itself remains in like total lockdown, no one in, no one out, and do not move domestically. And I think they're talking about doing that in the UK, but I'm not sure if they have yet. Here in Japan, there was that big announcement from the Ministry of Health yesterday, and they basically said 3 things. They said the areas that are, have many cases, and there are 4 areas with many cases. There's a northern island called Hokkaido, which has more than 100 cases. The second city, which is called Osaka, which has more than 100 cases. A prefecture. Good morning, Jan Grace, not Eric Lee. A prefecture called Aichi, and prefectures are like counties or states or whatever you want to call that. Aichi has more than 100, and Tokyo has more than 100. So for those 4, Hokkaido, Osaka, Aichi, and Tokyo, there's still a sort of like maintain a high level of alert. For the like places where there are cases, they're kind of saying, you know, well, you need to be vigilant. But then the places that aren't so badly hit, like most cases gone now, they're saying that they can reopen public public access to things. So it's differing region by region in Japan now, instead of having a sort of total countrywide statement. That's what they came up with yesterday. And then the different ministries will now have to work out what that means. So that's the health ministry recommending that on your computer, not your iPad. And I'm guessing that means your computer's signed into Eric's account, but your iPad's signed into your own account, Jan. Glad to see that you're not pretending to be someone else with your false online identity that people do these days. They pretend to be someone else. So, but yeah. So the situation is threefold here in Japan. You've got the places that need to maintain a really high level of vigilance, places that is kind of stable, and then there's places where it's calming down, and they're saying, right, let's start opening up things to the public again. Although they maintain concern about whether or not this thing could kick off and become an epidemic, but it never quite reached epidemic levels here in Japan. And I don't know whether that's an accurate reflection of the situation on the ground, or if that's just they didn't test as many people as at other places in the world. So the numbers don't support it being an epidemic, but the reality of it, how many people were actually infected, is hard to tell. So yeah, they and I don't know what that means for the different ministries. So that's the Ministry of Health's advice. But then you have to think about, say, the Foreign Ministry, which probably takes into account international travel, you'd think, for the Foreign Ministry. Then the Ministry of Education will have to work out what that means for schools, or I don't know, the Interior Ministry maybe. So a number of the initiatives jumped. Yeah, I saw that, Mum, that on. I saw it in the news yesterday, so it would have been 2 days ago, that the number of deaths had jumped by over 400. And now I think I'm right in saying Italy has more deaths than China had, which is quite a dramatic thing to state. But we have to remember that country by country, they count a coronavirus death in a different way. Some people count any death related to or some countries count any death related to coronavirus as being a coronavirus death. But other countries, it has to just be the coronavirus. So if you had the coronavirus and then you passed away, then that's a coronavirus death. But if you had the coronavirus and that caused a heart attack and you passed away, they would count that as a heart attack, not as a coronavirus death. So it looks like Italy are going with a sort of full kind of like, maximum disclosure, that anything that could possibly be related to a coronavirus death is a coronavirus fatality. Whereas here in Japan, I think they'd be much more, shall we say, circumspect about how they've gone around logging what is and what is not a coronavirus death. So I don't know which is actually the right thing to do when you look at the panic around the world, and whether the panic matches the sort of level of the situation, the concern matches the reality. I don't know. It seems a little bit inflated to me, and I think maybe it's better for countries and governments to sort of take a more calm approach, respond rather than react. But it's pretty much stable here. Like Japan, it's a beautiful day. You can probably just see the sky up here. It's a beautiful day here, and it's a national holiday today as well. So yeah. 3,405 Italy, 3,245 China. So Italy now has 200 more fatalities than China did. And the striking thing about that is that China's been suffering with this, or challenged with this, since, say, early January. And Italy maybe 6 weeks less. But again, it goes down to how you count the numbers and how you calculate it here. I've said before that I know of 2 people who had a fever and a cough, and they went to the doctor, and the doctor said, just go home and stay at home, and if it gets worse, come back again. So that's 2 of the main symptoms, but they didn't test for coronavirus. So whether or not people should or shouldn't test for it, and whether or not people have or haven't got it, but they just don't know the numbers. That's kind of the situation here, and whether or not the country has experienced it. In all likelihood, because of the range of symptoms that you can have with coronavirus, like you can have a slight cough and then you're done. Or you could have like a major cough, a high fever, lethargy, a headache, like multiple symptoms, So anyone who's had a light cough might have had coronavirus and not even known about it. It was just a gentle light cough. So thank you for the thumbs up, whoever just gave me that. So it's hard to know how many people have actually had it, because the range of symptoms is so wide, from light cough up to quite severe symptoms, that it's hard to know how many people in Japan have actually had it, and the same for the rest of the world. Right now, I think Japan's tested about 20,000 people. By comparison, and across roughly the same timeline, Korea's tested something like 300,000 people. So that's like 2,500% or something like that, 2,500%, 1,500% difference between the two countries. So, but Japan has ramped up their testing in the last few days, but I'm pretty sure that what Japan wants to do is it wants to sort of play it down and just keep things calm, rather than make it a big deal and have people panicking. And I personally think, now this is quite a controversial statement, as the wind blows up outside. I don't know if you heard that. This is a controversial statement. But I personally think that somewhere in the world, some nerdy economist worked out a calculation to work out an algorithm for, points on the stock market versus mortality rates. It seems that Japan's handling it the right way. It feels like it is. I mean, I don't feel much stress about it. And I just don't know what the reality is, though. I don't know if we've handled it the right way, so there have been few cases, or we've handled it the right way so people just haven't panicked, even though there have been a lot of cases. I don't know which it is. But I think Japan's betting on the fact that this thing will be, will go down in history as being less of a thing than, say, influenza or the common cold. So, but yeah, my controversial statement was that some economist somewhere must have calculated like GDP or like stock market, how many points you lose on that versus like mortality rate in the country. And I'm sure, if the stock market plunges by 25%, then there's a mortality spike because of that, just purely because people have less money to take care of themselves. And so some nerd out there, some stato, some what they call policy wonk, would have worked out the numbers and worked out the calculation, like if your GDP slides by this much, then that'll have an effect on mortality rates and the health of the country by this much. And then on the opposite side, they'll have worked out coronavirus and worked out that it's less of an impact. And they've just said, well, coronavirus is less dangerous than people panicking, freaking out, and overloading the healthcare system, for example. And so they haven't made it into a big deal here. I mean, there is constant coverage on the news and things. I think you're spot on with that policy wonk theory. Probably, I think so. I mean, I can imagine there's a course at a university somewhere about it, calculate the gross domestic product versus the health of the stock market and work out percentage mortality rate or something. And then, the politicians will have that equation, and they'll have an equation for what's the, likely mortality rate for a disease or a condition like the coronavirus, and whichever one is higher, they'll say, right, okay, coronavirus has a higher mortality rate than panicking in your country, so we'll actually deal with it. Coronavirus has a lower mortality rate than panic in your country, so let's not have people panic. So, but they can't say that. They can't go on the news and say, sorry, people out there, there's a disease that's coming around, but because it's actually it's more dangerous for us to tell you about it than it is to not tell you about it, so we're not going to tell you about it. The country wouldn't accept that. People still need that illusion of independence and freedom. But in reality, freedom is on a sliding scale. And nobody is particularly like 100% free, except for somebody who owns an island and lives on it and it self-sustains. But if you're part of any governmental system, whether it's communist or socialist or democratic or like capitalist based or whatever, you're not actually
100% free, as can be shown by, these laws out there. So Boris is keeping it as advisory to stop damaging the economy. So Jan is saying that Boris Johnson in the UK is maintaining an advisory stance rather than a compulsory order stance, which is the same as Japan. And that means that when like the Prime Minister or the government advises people not to go to cafes and restaurants and bars and clubs and museums and things like that, that when they suffer a loss in income, they can't claim that back against the government in compensation. Good morning, Mo Gaines. Happy to see you here. I'm grateful for you to drop by and tell us that the mood in Trinidad and Tobago has calmed down. People have gone back to their cool, relaxed ways of life. Everything's smooth and we're all good in Trinidad and Tobago, right? Good day, Jan Grace. Man, Mo Gaines, he's such a legend. He's such a legend. He really, really is, man. So I don't know how often Mo posts videos on YouTube, but as an indication of what an awesome guy he is, he doesn't at all promote his YouTube life. I think his YouTube life is just like his personal life, but he still has like 135 followers or subscribers on YouTube, not because he wants to have them, just because he's an awesome guy and people are like, yeah, that's a guy I'd like to hang out with, and they can hang out with him on YouTube. So it's amazing. I mean, I had to scrape and scratch together to get 135 subscribers. It took me like a month and a half or something like that. But Mo's just like, yeah, I'm a cool guy. People like me. They're going to subscribe to my channel, even though I don't have one. So it's a legend, Mo Gaines, one of the greatest, one of the OGs. And I can't wait to visit him in Trinidad and Tobago. And actually, since Mum is in the chat, Mo, do you think we can get Mum to pay for my ticket? Do you think we can get Mum to pay for me to go to Trinidad and Tobago? Actually, brother, it's not up and up, but we gone on to 9 confirmed cases. I believe it was 5 yesterday. And Mum says, hi, Mo. I think it was 5 confirmed cases yesterday and 4 before that, and now up to 9. So that's in relative terms a spike. And places like Trinidad and Tobago, I don't know what the infrastructure is like. And Mo says, hello, back to you, Mum. I don't know what the infrastructure is like for healthcare and things like that in Trinidad and Tobago. And but if my image of it is it similar in terms to, say Haiti or what was that place that got hit by the hurricanes a few years ago? And Trump was over there throwing like toilet roll at people. What was that called? San something or Las something or something like that. So is it like that more, or is it more advanced? Is it like Monaco? You guys like the Monaco, and you're all just like super rich, and you have tons of yachts like sitting in the harbour. I don't actually know what it's like on the ground in Trinidad and Tobago, but I'd imagine that the healthcare maybe isn't able. Mum just wrote no, but I don't know what that no means. I'm guessing it means no, I won't pay for you to go visit your friend in Trinidad and Tobago. But it might mean something else. Maybe it means no, I will pay her. No, I don't know. But yes, the Trinidad and Tobago. So tell Mums to come too. See, then now there you go, Mum. Do you want to go to the Caribbean? Visit Mo, and I bet he'd be a great host. But things, things on the shopping list to do. But top of that shopping list is to go down and see. Trinidad Tobago is a blast, says Mo. You'll have tons of fun. It's on the list of things to do, but the top of the list is to go visit the shoe apartment. That's the first thing I need to do is go down there and visit the shoe apartment. I do have an open invitation to do that, and it would be, I want to try and get there for a week and really shoot some great content down there with the rarest shoes in the world. I mean, that would just be awesome to spend a week down there. So, but yeah, I definitely want to get out to Trinidad and Tobago at some time in the future. That'd be cool. And with my job, there's probably a chance that I could do that. I do have the possibility in the coming years to travel quite a lot with this job. So so that might actually be a reality that comes true for us. But in terms of coronavirus, so it's Mo was saying that in Trinidad and Tobago up to 9. So shoe butter is a must. Yeah, absolutely, man. So actually, I mean, I've been down there once, but he's been up here twice. So it's actually my turn in a way. So I do need to get back down there. And it was through work that I went there. I had to do business in Hong Kong, and I used that trip as a sort of just fly through for a couple of days on the way to Hong Kong. So, but it is a must. But yeah, so Trinidad and Tobago up to 9 cases. So I'm sure people are concerned about that. And hopefully, it'll just calm down. It'll be something that people can solve. Mum says now, if I can come too, I might consider paying for my ticket. So, but now Mum's actually in a new philosophy of thinking. For years, she. How are you guys holding up? For years, Mum was. I'll answer in a minute, Mo. For years, Mum was stockpiling her money and living a very frugal life. But then she realised, like, why do I need to do that? Why don't I just spend it and have a fun life? What am I saving for, essentially? So now is the time to strike if you want to get money out of my mum. She's in a spendy mode. And in about a year's time, that'll go back to a thrifty mode. So now we have to sort of say, right, what about going to Trinidad and Tobago, Mum? And she'll be like, oh, you know what, maybe I should. But then next year, I'll be like, no, I have to save my money. But Mo's asking, how are we doing? So I'm fine. I mean, this is kind of what I've been saying about the coronavirus. Is here in Japan, it's very calm. I love your mum's Tobago is a must for you. Come on, Mum. Mo's made a direct invite. So, but Mo, you're saying you're up to 9 cases. We're up to I want to say about 900 cases so far. And the daily rise is about 40. Mum says it's difficult here in Spain, a bit like house arrest, but keeps me safe. Mum, nothing will keep you safe. You were in a house alone and you managed to have a bloodied nose and answer the door to the delivery on your knees. So being in a house doesn't necessarily keep you safe. Mum's an adventurer. She's not the sit-at-home type. She's the get out there and do things type, which leads to bumps and bruises and cuts and things like that. But that's, it's a much more interesting way to go about it. So it's a relative term for Mum about keeping her safe. But yeah, here, so roughly about 40 new cases a day, and I think there have been 40 fatalities total over the course of about 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks. But the population here is 130 million people, 130 million people. So you have to plug that in, 130 people and 40 fatalities as a relative stat. How much is that, of your population? So you're talking, let me see if I can work it out. 130, 40 is the same as 13 million and 4. And then 13 million divided by that. So that's 1 fatality every maybe 3.5 million people. And of that, number, there are, I think, 900 registered cases out of 130 million people, excluding the cruise. And I'm happy to exclude the cruise numbers because you want to know the situation on the ground, the reality out there. You want to know what it's like for people walking down the street and what risk they're at. And the cruise is like self-contained. So if you include those numbers and Japan's numbers, people out there have a different perspective about what it really is. So Mum says that's true. And again, I'm assuming, maybe there's a bit of lag, but I'm assuming Mum's saying that's true about falling down and getting hurt and not being safe at home. Because there have been some cracking stories to come out of our household. Usually involves either myself or my mum covered in blood. Actually, here's a bit of personal information for you guys. You see that line there? That was when I accidentally ran into my school and hit it right on the corner and split my head open. So that's what life is like in our household. So the coronavirus is much less of a threat to us than actual life. We're rough and tumble, and my little girl is exactly the same. She's out there climbing things. She has this big scratch right down the side of her face right now, and I have no idea how she got it. None whatsoever. It was just like last night, we're getting ready for bath, and I was taking off her sweater, and when I took it off, she looked up at me, and she had this big old scratch down the side of her face, and I'm like, when did you do that? And she's not a crier, so it's both of us. It's all of us, Mo. It's all of us. We're all a bit of a hot mess, as they say in the south of America, although that's a slightly different thing. But we're all a bit of a mess in our household. We're all a bit rough and tumble and bumps and scrapes and all that kind of stuff. So But it's great, chatting with you guys. But it's Friday morning on a national holiday here, and that means that it's time to go out there and do things and engage with the world and take those risks, getting out there and seeing whether or not I'm going to crash into something, bump into something, fall over, trip, break something. All very possibilities for me. I will be back tomorrow, and I'm kind of hoping to do it from the park tomorrow morning. I should get my data back tomorrow. My data cycle on my phone runs from the 21st to the 20th. So today is the 20th, and it's the last day of me having no data on my phone. So I should get a boost in that. And I'm not sure how many gigabytes I get. Your boys, Mo says his boys are home from school and ripping the food apart, but I'm thankful they are healthy. So absolutely, we tried distance learning here, and it was successful for some people, but very like a disaster for others. So we definitely need to think about the health of the kids mentally as well as physically, being stuck indoors or that, It came out of China as well that they tried to do distance learning a lot there, and they used computers, and kids were kind of getting a bit sort of screen, I don't know what the word is, like screen saturated, where they spend way too much time in front of computer screens or video screens and stuff like that instead of like human contact. So it is, it's honorable and desirable to try and keep learning going from a distance, but you have to do it in a practical way, not just in a kind of like overloading digital way. And also you have to realize, good morning, Brandon. Thank you again for being here. All right, I'll catch you guys later. Thanks for dropping in. Appreciate it. Brandon in Alabama. Hopefully we'll see Brandon tomorrow as well for that last live that we'll be doing. We have them on a schedule. Fun education exercises, a must, absolutely. So, and just doing what you can, but learning should happen in a social context. Mum's put up that percentage of deaths from those infected: China 4%, Italy 8.3%, Iran 6.5%, and Spain 4.3%, which is very high mortality rate. I believe I'm right in saying that influenza has a mortality rate of 0.1%. So if you're talking like 4, 5, 6% for the mortality rate, but that's people we know that have been infected, and then we've got known deaths, and what they'll have to work out, because this is year one, what they'll work out as we go along is how many people have been infected that we just don't know about, and that hopefully those numbers will drop year on year, sort of thing. So especially as we build up a tolerance to this thing as well, like we've done with other things across the years. So yeah, but it's the education side of things, I super recommend. Like education should happen in a social context, not just a one person alone in a booth, reading books. It's something that you should engage in with other people, and you should talk to other people and bounce your ideas. Okay, I think about this. What do you think about it? So it's not just a sort of like read the facts in the book and hope the book is honest. It's something that happens in a social context and in the company of your friends and your peers. And so it's very hard to do that distance learning, very, very hard. And the potential for kids to actually learn the wrong things is quite high because they don't have someone to ask the questions of and things like that. So I totally recommend trying to balance that education, but don't overload on the distance learning. Try to find a way to make it fun, like Mo was saying, and make it also about physical exercise and also about mental health, not just education and academic achievement. So, but like I said, I have to chip off, guys. Time to head out there. It's what time is it? It's 9:25 in the morning on Friday, the 20th of April. It's a national holiday today, and then tomorrow I said it'll be my last of these daily lives. I'm not seeing a reason to keep going live every day from Japan, but I do want to go live every so often, so I might drop in from time to time with a comment or a live, so keep an eye out for that. And also, like hopefully things will not, turn for the worst here in this sort of stable life we're on. So stay blessed, brother, and have a great day. Looking forward to you tomorrow. Yes, Mo, it's great to check in with you every day. And like we were saying the other day in the chat, we have to work out a way to sort of get more than one person in here. They used to be able to do that with Google, but you can't anymore. But there's a thing called StreamYard, which might be a good way to to get more than one person in the live stream. But for now, it's time to sign off. Thank you guys for checking in. I always appreciate it. You know I do that daily content every day about the sneakers, and tomorrow will be the last of these daily coronavirus lives for now. But maybe we'll be back in the future. Tomorrow in the park, hopefully, for a sign off to finish this series of live shows we'll be doing. But for now, it's time for me to say farewell. Thank you guys for checking in, and I will definitely see you guys tomorrow.